Symbaroum has 36 interesting abilities to build your unique character with. While players may love the freedom of not being constrained by typical RPG classes, all these abilities can be overwhelming to choose from. The most comparable popular RPG mechanic would of course be feats in D&D 5e. These powerful extra abilities add depth to your character's combat mechanics, but you need to know the viability of each one if you are going to make an effective character. Plenty of YouTubers have ranked D&D feats, ranging from overpowered must-haves in S tier and practically worthless never takes in F tier. In Symbaroum, I think you'll find a happier middle ground. This is less dramatic but overall better for the game. While some abilities will find more use than others, none are so powerful to consider must-haves, and none are so unusable that no one would ever consider taking them on a serious character. So, I'm going to go over all 36 abilities in the core rulebook. Skip ahead if you don't care about my methodology and just want to see the rankings. I won't spend time reading out each ability verbatim because this video will be plenty long enough, so please feel free to pause on an ability if you're curious about its full text. I'm hoping this video will be a helpful resource to players picking up the game or starting up new characters, and maybe veteran players will have some fun telling me which abilities I should bump up and which I should knock down. While my opinion is an educated one with plenty of experience with Symbaroum and other RPGs, and I spent hours evaluating and rearranging this list, I am still only one man, and my opinion is bound to have some blind spots I'm sure someone will tell me about in the comments. There are different criteria for judging these abilities, and my approach is to consider mechanics first and flavor far second. Abilities that can consistently keep you alive or kill your enemies quicker will be ranked high, but in a close call, an ability that satisfies a role player's fantasy might get the edge over one that's just not as evocative. All abilities have a novice, adept, and master level. Rather than grade each level of an ability and make this list 3 times as long, I'll be judging each ability as a whole. Some abilities have a strong novice but a weak adept. Others have a weak novice and adept but change the game at master level. While it would be easy, I don't think it would be entirely fair to just average the 3 levels to get the ability's final grade. You'll often be starting the game with 5 novice abilities and rarely see master level outside of dedicated long-term campaigns, so I'll be weighing my rankings towards those abilities that are better in the early game. We'll go with a power ranking from strongest to weakest, starting with A tier, defining abilities that are crucial to certain builds but not universal, then move on to B tier, reliable abilities that are effective but maybe not flashy. And finally, the C tier, situational abilities that are still useful but have a particular niche that won't come up in every story or every party. I know I'm abandoning some suspense by telling you the strongest first rather than the other way around, but I'd rather tell you up front what can make your Symbaroum character effective so that later we can understand the abilities that don't work so well. Before we get started proper, there are 6 abilities that would be particularly difficult to rank alongside the others, and those are the ones dealing with mystic powers and rituals. Their power tier depends on the mystic powers and rituals you will be taking more than the ability on its own. Maybe one day I'll make a ranking video for mystic powers and rituals. For now, we'll go ahead and set the 6 mystic abilities in their own tier, M for mystic, but I will briefly go over what each ability does for new players. Mystical power simply lets you pick up a mystical power. Each power is also leveled by novice, adept, and master, so ranking up in this ability lets you level up in the mystical power you choose. You can take this ability multiple times for multiple powers. Ritualist lets you pick up 1 ritual at novice level, 2 more at adept level, and 3 more at master level for a total of 6 rituals. There is the interesting stipulation of having to learn the ritual somewhere in game, but I'm sure you and your game master can work it out. Sorcery is our first of four mystical tradition abilities. Novice level sorcery allows you to minimize the corruption you take on, adept level allows you to reroll failed mystical power attempts, and master level allows a different way to affect creatures with your powers. Theurgy at novice level gets rid of the permanent corruption you normally gain from learning novice level mystical powers belonging to that tradition. Adept level increases this level up to adept powers and minimizes temporary corruption from casting such powers. Master level increases the power level to master and adds an extra 1d4 to all healing and holy power rolls. Witchcraft works the same way as Theurgy with regards to getting rid of permanent corruption gained by mystical powers, but doesn't offer any additional bonuses. And Wizardry works the same way as Witchcraft, but at Master level adds the ability to re-roll one failed test each turn when establishing a chain of mystical effects. Strangler gives you a unique fighting style that ignores armor and takes away an enemy's actions, all at novice level. Adept level gives you a range damage over time effect, and Master level gives you an area of effect option. The last two levels require items that will burn your Thaler, but that's a small price to pay for potent effects, and most of the time you'll be locking down one enemy to mark for death with the novice ability. I've slept on this ability in the past, but it took me only one time seeing a Strangler in action to realize it is probably the best ability in the game. And yet, it's such a weird concept that you won't always have a Strangler in your party. Plus, strangling one enemy should paint a target on your back for all other enemies. That's why this is A tier and not S tier. Sixth Sense is an ability swap, and you're about to see more of those soon. Ability swaps in Symbaroum allow you to substitute one ability roll for another, meaning you can change the fundamentals of the game by doubling down on your favorite ability while dumping another without leaving yourself very much weaker. Accurate is usually the stat being replaced, so as a quick tip, watch out for investing high points in accurate unless you plan on being a versatile attacker with different types of weapons. Anyway, Sixth Sense lets you use Vigilant instead of Accurate for ranged attacks at novice level. Adept lets you further utilize Vigilant for both initiative and defense. Master lets you fight without penalty even when your character can't see. This ability is very cool and very effective. Feint is another ability swap that allows you to use discreet instead of accurate as long as you use a short or precise weapon. Adept level secures a rare second ability swap, allowing you to use discreet instead of quick for defense. Finally, Master level allows a potential free attack with a successful discreet versus vigilant test. Every level of this ability is solid. At novice level, Dominate lets you use your persuasive instead of accurate on melee attacks. Adept adds a talk down mechanic that prevents enemies from attacking you, although this could endanger your allies. And Master allows you to fully subdue a target with a successful test. Dominate is a unique ability that allows for a different playstyle, whether you want to create a dashing charlatan or a charismatic captain. Another solid ability swap. Iron Fist lets you use strong instead of accurate with melee attacks. Adept adds 1d4 to all melee attacks, and Master makes this bonus 1d8. Simple but effective, Iron Fist is an easy choice for bruiser warriors with high strong. Man at Arms is a fairly simple ability that makes you a master of your armor at each level. This is not as fancy as some of the more active combat abilities, but being able to take less hits and take less damage from those hits should not be looked down on. Man at Arms is an easy pickup for characters looking to tank and survive. Medicus lets you heal the toughness of your allies once per character per day. That's kind of it, but that's kind of all you need. Death comes easy in Symbaroum, especially if you rush into multiple combat scenes in a day. Having a medicus in your party massively increases your chances of survival in the long run. At novice level, Backstab gives your character a clear objective for combat by rewarding attacking with advantage. This will usually be done by flanking an enemy, which is easy enough to do in Symbaroum's combat system. Novice level Backstab not only provides a damage boost, but allows you to swap in discreet for accurate. Adept level allows you to apply damage over time with a bleeding wound that's hard to stop. At master level, all damage is increased to a d8, and there's no limit on how many times you can apply it per turn. Backstab is effective whether you are fighting weak mobs or mighty bosses, includes an ability swap, and appeals to a certain roguish fantasy, making it a solid A tier choice. Long weapons are already potent for boasting high damage and free attacks at the low cost of foregoing a shield or extra weapon. Polearm Mastery makes the damage higher at novice level and adds on more free attacks at adept level. Master adds a defensive factor that prevents enemies from attacking you. Polearm Master is an absolute win. Still not for every warrior, but you will always feel its effects in combat if you take it. Twin Attack gives you an extra attack at novice level, and that should be enough, but it also gives you a bonus +1 to defense. This is a big deal for only 10 XP. It doesn't matter that the Adept and Master level only increase your damage die up a step, you can take the Novice level and be happy. Berserker at Novice level gives you a damage boost of 1d6 at the expense of -5 defense. At Adept, you start taking less damage from all the hits you take. Master level gets rid of the -5 defense penalty. Berserk is a potent choice that's rich in both flavor and mechanical prowess, but there's no denying that you'll have to build and play around it to get over the significant detriment of -5 defense. And that's why it's at the bottom of A tier. At novice level, Shield Fighter gives you both a defensive buff and an offensive buff, a good combo for your chosen fighting style with only 10 XP spent. Adept gives you a free attack that can potentially knock your opponent down, a decent debuff on enemies. Master is a little lackluster by only providing a damage buff to the shield bash, but that doesn't matter. Shield Fighter is a strong ability that is true to its fantasy. It gives you a little bit of everything you want, but doesn't especially excel at any individual aspect, which is why I eventually landed it in high B rather than low A. Novice level two handed force gives you a simple damage increase to the rarely seen but ever precious 1d12. Adept allows for a free attack if you miss your target, and Master level ignores armor. This is strong. Maybe not crucially strong, but plenty of bruisers will still want to pick this one up. Poisoner is a little weak at novice level, allowing you to maybe deal some extra damage once with an item. Adept makes full use of this ability by allowing the poison to be used for the entire combat scene, and Master increases the poison's potency. Each dose of poison will cost you some valuable valor, but damage over time that ignores armor is a big deal that can bring down Symbaroum's toughest enemies. Poisoner takes some work to make happen, but the rewards can be substantial. Steel Throw increases the damage of thrown weapons at novice level, allows for a second thrown attack at adept level, and an astounding third attack at master level. Fun and effective. 3 attacks is certainly impressive, and Steel Throw is only held back by not having any armor penetration. Beast Lore gives you a full stat read on your enemy as a free action at novice level. At Adept level, you gain a bonus 1d4 damage against your enemies, but only those belonging to the subcategory you choose. Master increases this extra damage to 1d6. This ability is held back by having to choose a subcategory, but if you manage to pick a subcategory you'll face most, then Beastmaster will be a major buff for your whole party without costing you any actions. Leader is an interesting one. At novice level, it's a limited ability swap allowing you to use persuasive instead of resolute when you resist mystical powers. Adept gives you a completely different focus, allowing you to actively mark an enemy for an additional 1d4 damage from all your allies' attacks. Master gives you a sizable buff to your party by letting them use your persuasive instead of their resolute. Not every party needs a face, and persuasive usually doesn't help you in deadly combat scenes, but if you want a way to bring your charisma to the battlefield, Leader accomplishes this well enough to earn a spot in B tier. Novice level Marksman lets you go up one damage die on the dice chain. Adept lets you pin down targets with a successful accurate versus strong test. And Master lets you completely ignore armor with projectile weapons. This is powerful and only held back from a defining ability because cover and easy mobility can make it difficult to make ranged attacks in every round of every scene. Recovery gives you self healing as an active ability, with the recovery die increasing at each level. Your character will typically want to stay alive, and recovery does help you do that. A few toughness throughout the day can easily make that difference, but you could also roll a 1 and that's your only healing from this ability. Still good, still B tier. Alchemy allows a character to make different potencies of elixirs with a successful cunning test. Items in Symbaroum are decently strong, and alchemy fulfills an important character niche of the crafter. Lore Master has a lengthy description that I'll let you pause and read if you are curious. In short, it fulfills the fantasy of making your character a nerd of the setting that can flaunt their cunning above all others. Lore Masters can potentially avoid fights or turn enemies against one another with their knowledge and words. Certainly not as combat potent as most other abilities, but the roleplay possibilities keep this one at a healthy tier. Bodyguard allows you to take a hit for your ally at novice level, albeit with a successful resolute test, and the attack automatically hits you with no defense roll. Adept adds the defense roll, and Master allows you to also make a free attack against enemies who attack your allies. Bodyguard may put you at risk in a game where death is always a few rolls away, but it does encapsulate the party tank fantasy perfectly. Acrobatics allows a chance to avoid free attacks with a quick roll at Novice, granting you more free reign over the battlefield. At Adept, you get the lackluster ability of maybe jumping up from prone as a free action. And at Master, you gain the positively wacky ability to make enemies take hits for you. Acrobatics is a mixed bag, but it's a fun bag of tricks that makes a reasonable pickup for characters with high quick. Tactician is an ability swap that just doesn't pack the same punch as other options. Novice doesn't affect attacks, but rather allows you to use cunning for initiative. Adept lets you use cunning for defense. These are cool if you want to make a cunning character, but if you want better initiative and defense, you can just give yourself a good quick without spending 30 XP. Master really makes this ability by finally letting you attack with cunning, making one stat a master combat stat, and saving this from dropping down into C tier. Natural Warrior allows you to attack with 1d6 damage even when you don't have a weapon available. Adept gives you a second attack, which is always nice. Master increases the damage of each of these attacks by 1d6. This can be utilized well, but I think in most cases you will be better served by picking up a weapon and choosing another ability. Still a go to choice if you want to make a monk in Symbaroum, but otherwise, I don't think your character will be picking this up. Quick Draw lets you draw weapons quickly at novice level, allows you to swap weapons fluidly at adept level, and allows you to perhaps heal allies quickly at master level. Weapon drawing and weapon swapping just won't come up in every combat scene. Still, being caught flat footed in Symbaroum can be a death sentence, so, like all abilities in C tier, don't mistake this for an outright bad ability. Equestrian adds extra damage when you are mounted. Adept level adds the ability to move before and after an attack without provoking free attacks. Master increases the novice damage addition. Equestrian doesn't add that much for your character, and it requires a condition that won't be met in every combat. Most dungeons, ruins, and even the root covered forest ground won't be reasonably suitable for you to bring your horse into combat. Plus, horses are not actually included as a stat block in the core rulebook. Equestrian promises a potent fantasy of the gallant rider in shining armor, but sadly falls a little rusty. Steadfast is an interesting and flavorful ability, but maybe not an impactful one. Novice level gives you a second chance to succeed at resolute checks related to traps and alchemical elixirs. Adept extends this to mind affecting mystical powers. Master allows a psychic feedback that damages your attacker if their mental attack fails. If you know your game master likes to use enemy mystics and resolute traps, I could see this being a neat pickup. But in most games, Steadfast won't come up every session. Exceptional attribute adds one to an attribute of your choice at each level. There may be math that shows this is a worthwhile choice, and a bonus 5% chance to succeed on your core stat is still not a bad choice, is just a boring one. I want to like Witch Sight more, because the ability to see shadows and corruption on a creature can make for very interesting roleplay reveals and scouting for your party. Unfortunately, these attempts at seeing someone's shadow come at the cost of corruption and could still fail. Adept and Master don't scale this ability particularly well, and it's not going to be something your character leaps for unless you truly want to tap into the eerie world of shadows. Great flavor, disappointing mechanics. Sad, but something had to go in last place. And thanks for watching. I hope you found a new favorite somewhere on this list, and maybe you're considering some busted ability combos for your next Symbaroum character. Have a nat one day. Bye bye.